yes, I know this review was supposed to be like a week and a half ago. Again, schedule, people. I have a lot of movies to watch. I have a lot of other videos and other projects that I'm working on. I accept the fact that I'm as late as the White Rabbit or Barry Allen usually are, and I also accept the fact that a lot of people have probably already seen this movie. Still not getting any spoilers from me. King is a medieval drama that's on Netflix that was directed by David McCod, and it's also written by McCod and Joel Edgerton. Joel Edgerton also writes and produces this movie. It also stars Timothée Chalamet, Robert Pattinson, Sean Harris, and I think Johnny Depp's daughter might be in this movie. I can't remember. Her last name is Depp, so I just assumed she was related to Johnny. By the way, Timothée Chalamet is in this movie. He's also the leading role in Dune, so support Dune 2020. Just felt like throwing that out there again. I keep reminding you guys until we actually see the movie. I guess this is based off of a series of plays that Shakespeare wrote. It's called the Henriade, I guess, or the Henriade, or however the fuck Shakespeare people say that. It takes place in the 15th century, and it follows Timothée Chalamet's character as he is forced to become King of England after his father and his brother pass away. Immediately after becoming king, he is beset with a lot of problems and conflicts and politics that he didn't ask for that is left over from his father's regime. So now Timothée Chalamet has to try to navigate through these treacherous political waters, and in doing so, he kind of wades into a conflict with France. And this movie breaks down how he deals with all of that and how he becomes the king that he's supposed to be. You know, coming of age type of thing. I'm a sucker for a good medieval movie. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because of the Lord of the Rings that I have ingrained in my blood. Maybe it's because medieval stuff kind of reminds me of fantasy, which is like one of my favorite genres in movies next to sci-fi. But whatever the reason is, I like a good medieval piece. I like it when it's done well. And this whole movie breathes excellence. It feels like medieval done right. There's a lot of passion and attention to detail and a lot of effort that obviously went into making this movie the best version of what it could have been. The cinematography of this movie is absolutely beautiful. It's lush and gorgeous when it needs to be, and I also really appreciate the way that they use the color scheme in this movie. There are definitely a lot of parts where they play with dark and muted colors because the tone of the movie is a reflective, brooding type of film. There are other parts of the movie, other scenes, where it calls for a little bit of a brighter scene. So I really appreciate the scenery in this film, cinematography, all that. High marks for me. This applies to the production design and the production value overall of this movie. This is definitely one of the better looking films in terms of production. You look at the castles, you look at the hallways, you look at the stairways, you look at the costumes and the outfits, haircuts and the hairstyles of everybody, you look at all the different ways that things are styled and the way that they're designed. What carries this movie through is the performance of its lead characters, in particular for me, Joel Edgerton. It's weird that I'm mentioning Joel Edgerton before the lead of the movie, Timothée Chalamet. I'll get to him in a second. Also, again, Dune 2020, make sure you go see that movie. Edgerton, I really appreciate what he brought to this movie. He kind of serves as like a mentor figure to Timothée Chalamet's character. Definitely has the most humanity and humor to his character, which is what I appreciate, but he's also one of those characters in a movie like this where almost everything that comes out of their mouth is real shit. It's one of those characters where they say something and then you're kind of like, well, there's a lot of truth in what they're saying, and you know what? I value that advice. It's like the darker, more toned down, serious, coarse voice version of Rafiki, and who doesn't love Rafiki? There was one speech that he gave to Timothée Chalamet in this movie where I half expected him to whack him with a stick, and then the next scene be like, you follow Rafiki, you know they with. Timothée Chalamet is pretty good in this movie for the material that he's given with. It's a very restrained, very mature performance from him. He plays a character that overnight has to kind of transform into a different person, and I really feel like for the reflective tone that the movie's going for, like Timothée Chalamet definitely nails a lot of that, the more serious aspects of the performance, and I feel like if that's what you're looking for, you're going to be satisfied. Robert Pattinson's accent is a little bit funky in this movie, but whatever, I rock with it, and acting-wise, he definitely injects a lot of energy and a lot of life. It looks like he's having a lot of fun in the scenes that he's in. The best thing about this movie, hands down, is the musical score. The musical score here is God tier. It's one of the best musical scores composed all year. I heard the musical score and how powerful and how big it got in some scenes in this movie, and it made me want to go to church, made me want to get the Holy Ghost. Says something. Ultimately, while I really enjoyed the production and the quality of this movie, the cinematography, the score, all of that, I gotta say this movie didn't really do a good enough job at grabbing me. I think the biggest problem I have with this movie is that for too much of it, it feels way too flat emotionally. Like it's an emotionally flat movie. I feel like the movie didn't do enough to get me emotionally invested in the characters or the decisions that they were making, the conflicts that were portrayed, either external or internal. There's just not much of emotional resonance going on with this movie. And for a movie that's over 2 hours long, I feel like it could have allowed these characters to breathe a little bit more. That definitely makes the movie feel a little bit longer. I gotta prepare you for that. This is a slow burn type of movie. A lot of talking scenes, a lot of dialogue. For a movie that framed itself for being like a coming of age movie, it feels like it got watered down and it got pushed to the side in order to serve a story about guts and fire and glory and England versus France. And I would have much preferred the more personal journey that they could have taken us on, but they didn't really take us on that journey. As it stands, they're just brooding and they're just really boring in a movie that feels a little bit too boring by the end of it. The King was a really good movie, one of the better medieval movies you'll find on Netflix. I'm gonna leave this one in the Silver Age for Man of Steel. Really enjoyed The King. Tell me, what are some of your favorite Netflix movies that have come out lately? Recommend them in the comment section. Maybe I'll review some of them. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and as always, if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.